Once upon a time, there lived a girl named Bimpe. Bimpe lived with her father Ade and her stepmother Tope. Bimpe's mother died a few days after giving birth to her, leaving her in the care of her father, who later married her stepmother Tope. Bimpe was born with a mark on her face, and many believed that she was a reincarnation of her grandmother, who died many years ago, because her grandmother had a similar mark on her own face. In their village, any child believed to be a reincarnation is seen as cursed, and no one associated with such a child. Right from birth, Bimpe has been discriminated against in the village, as no one wanted to associate with her. She had no friends of her own, as she kept to herself all the time. Even her stepmother and sister were wicked towards her and tried all they could to send her away. However, her father Ade loved her so much and paid no mind to what others had to say about his beautiful daughter. He warned his wife never to discriminate against his daughter Bimpe. One day, Bimpe's stepmother Tope returned home from the market and saw Bimpe eating some food from her sister's plate. Tope was so furious as she poured the plate of food on Bimpe's face, screaming and calling her all sorts of condescending names. Bimpe apologized to her stepmother, but Tope hissed and walked away in anger. For days, Tope starved Bimpe of food and threatened to kill her if she ever told her father that she had not eaten in days. Despite being hungry, Tope still sent Bimpe to the stream to fetch some water. When Bimpe got to the stream, she began to cry because she was weak and her stomach was aching. As Bimpe was crying, she perceived a sweet-smelling aroma. Someone was cooking a delicious meal nearby, so Bimpe decided to go beg for some food. She followed the sweet-smelling aroma into the forest and arrived at a very old hut. Bimpe then began to sing as she pleaded with the owner of the food to please spare her some food as she had not eaten in days. Bimpe then heard a faint voice that invited her into the old hut. She was terrified because she could not understand why or how anyone would live in the forest, but she was so hungry and had no choice. When Bimpe entered the old hut, she saw a very old woman. Next to the old woman was a pot of delicious soup. The old woman then handed Bimpe some soup to eat, and Bimpe rushed the food as though her life depended on it. After a few minutes, Bimpe finished the soup and felt her energy returning. She thanked the old woman for her kindness, and the old woman replied her saying that she was the one grateful to Bimpe for eating her food. The old woman then offered Bimpe extra food to take home, and Bimpe was so grateful as she thanked the old woman again for her kindness. She pondered on how she would ration the soup to last her for a few days. As Bimpe headed back into the village, she saw a poor beggar sitting under a palm tree. The poor beggar begged her for some food, and Bimpe, without hesitation, gave the poor beggar the food the old woman gave to her. Although Bimpe had need for the soup, she decided to sacrifice the meal as she believed the poor beggar needed the food more than she did. The poor beggar was so grateful to Bimpe as she began to sip the soup. This made Bimpe so happy as she headed back home feeling fulfilled. As days passed, Bimpe could not stop thinking about the old woman in the forest. She then decided to pay her a visit one afternoon to thank her once more for her kindness. Bimpe ventured into the forest in search of the old woman's hut, but to her greatest surprise, the hut was nowhere to be found. Bimpe was now filled with fear as she wondered why the old woman's hut was no longer in the forest. She left the forest puzzled and decided to go in search of the poor beggar under the palm tree. When Bimpe got to the palm tree, the poor beggar too was nowhere to be found. Bimpe at this point was worried as she could not understand what was going on. Several thoughts ran through her mind as she could not stop thinking about the old woman and the poor beggar and wondered where they could be. One night, whilst Bimpe was asleep, she saw the old woman in her dream. The old woman spoke to her in a soothing and comforting voice, saying, "I am a spirit of the forest, sent here to test the kindness and compassion of the people in your village. You have shown great kindness by sharing the food I offered you with the poor beggar, and for that you are blessed." Bimpe's heart raced as she listened to the old woman. She asked the old woman about the poor beggar and why they both disappeared. The old woman smiled and replied that the poor beggar was another test which she passed. Apparently, the poor beggar was also a spirit sent to test the villagers' willingness to help those in need. She had been sitting under the palm tree for days, but nobody in the village was kind enough to help her. Bimpe had unknowingly passed two tests of compassion, and the old woman revealed that because of her compassionate heart, a great destiny awaits her. Bimpe woke up so happy about her dream. She rushed to inform her dear father Ade, who embraced and encouraged her. However, what Bimpe did not know was that her stepmother Tope overheard the whole conversation. Driven by jealousy and resentment, Tope hatched a plan to get rid of Bimpe once and for all. That same afternoon, Tope sent Bimpe to her farm to clear all the weeds. Bimpe, without hesitation, left for the farm, excited about her dream. On her way to the farm, Bimpe met a young girl who seemed lost in the bush. She asked the girl how she got to the bush, but the girl seemed confused and couldn't tell. Bimpe then asked where the girl lived, and the girl revealed that she was from the neighboring village. So, Bimpe took the young girl home, and her family was so pleased to see her. On her way back from the neighboring village, Bimpe bumped into the prince of the neighboring village, who recognized her and called her by her name. Bimpe was in shock as she wondered how the prince got to know her name. Spooked by what happened, Bimpe ran away and returned to her village. On getting to her stepmother's farm, Bimpe noticed that people had gathered. What could have happened? She thought to herself as she approached the scene. To her greatest surprise, Bimpe saw her stepsister Bolu in the pool of her own blood. What happened? She screamed frantically, and the people pointed at a group of boys who confessed that Bimpe's stepmother Tope had hired them to kill Bimpe in her farm. On getting to the farm, the boys saw Bolu and thought it was Bimpe. That was how they killed Bolu, who innocently came to the farm to pluck some herbs. When Tope heard of her daughter's death, she ran mad instantly. News of the recent happenings reached the prince of the neighboring village, who came to ask for Bimpe's hand in marriage. The villagers were all shocked to hear that the prince from the neighboring village had come to ask for Bimpe's hand in marriage, regardless of all that had happened. It was then that the prince revealed to them that for so many years he suffered from a strange sickness that no one was able to heal. One night, whilst he was asleep, he saw Bimpe in his dream. The prince revealed that Bimpe placed his hand on her face towards her birthmark. Immediately he touched the birthmark on Bimpe's face. He got healed instantly. When he woke up from the dream, he noticed that his strange sickness had disappeared. Since then, the prince had been looking for Bimpe and was shocked to see her on that fateful day. He followed her to know where she lived and was also shocked to know that she lived in the neighboring village. Instantly, the prince knew that it was destiny that brought them together on that fateful day. He told the people that Bimpe was not a curse but a blessing, and that he was willing to marry her and take her out of their village to his palace, where she would be treasured and respected. Bimpe, although hesitant at first, agreed to marry the prince, and that was how her life changed as she lived the remaining of her days in the palace as a princess, who later became the queen of the neighboring village. The lesson to be learned from this story is that kindness and compassion, even in the face of adversity and discrimination, can lead to a better future and unexpected blessings. Also, do not dig a pit for others, as you might just fall into the pit yourself. Live in peace with all men, and you will also live a peaceful life. I hope you enjoyed the story.
Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. It helps us grow our channel. I'll see you in our next story. Bye.